Hello friends, I'm back with another update video for a year in the Bible. This week went really well, and yes, we still have our house decorated for Christmas. Don't judge us. We undecorated the outside, so we're doing well, but we got to finish the inside. I did have COVID, so that's one excuse, and I'm feeling a lot better. So thank you to everyone who sent prayers and kind words for me. Feeling a lot better. Becca never got it, and so we were feeling good heading into this kind of middle part of January. And thank you to all of you who watched those first couple videos and have been sending me messages and comments and encouraging me. I've been like pleasantly surprised by how well this has been received, and a lot of people are saying, hey, I'm going to do this with you. I'm going to read the Bible with you. So that's been really cool. I do have some specific questions I'm going to answer a little bit later in this video about the pens I'm using and the study notes and things like that. But just to kind of tell you where I'm at, I did every day this week right here on this couch for the most part read the Bible, and I'm trying to do 3 pages a day. That's a reminder, 3 pages a day. So after 2 weeks I should be to page 42. And Genesis ends in my Bible on page 46. So I powered through this week and I got 4 extra pages and I finished Genesis. So that's what I'm going to kind of talk about today and show you what I did. But I really loved it. Now, I recognize that working from home these first 2 weeks of the year has been a blessing to get this started. Like, I have not struggled to want to read my Bible, and I thought maybe I would. Also, Genesis is really fun to read, right? So having COVID, working from home, having the time and the space to do this. This is our piano room at the front of our house. I showed you it in the last video. And Becca and I sit here and we read coffee. We drink coffee. We read the Bible. We hang out together in the mornings, which I really like. But next week I go back to work. So it's going to be a little bit different because I'm going to have to get up. There's going to be an alarm clock added into the situation next week. But one thing I will say is that I think one of the shifts in me that has been helpful for this is that in December, I finished a book, I've got it with me, called The Ruthless Elimination of Hurry by John Mark Comer. He's a pastor and a writer out in Portland, Oregon, and loved this book. It was really challenging. It's about rest and margin and just how kind of eliminating hurry from our lives. And one of the things that I decided to do in mid-December, I have had an iPhone for as long as I can remember, and I always have it plugged in next to the bed. It's the last thing I look at before I go to bed. It's the first thing I look at when I wake up. And I decided to kind of try not to be so addicted to my phone. So I'm now plugging my phone in every night in another room in the house. And I've already read 3 books in January at nighttime, just reading before I go to bed instead of looking at my phone. I usually do the crossword puzzle from the New York Times on my phone, but now I'm just reading. And in the mornings I wake up and I come out here. I wake up before Becca, I get the coffee going, I come out here, I start reading the Bible before I even look at my phone. There were multiple days this week where I got to almost lunchtime and I was like, where's my phone? And it was still plugged in the other room. I hadn't been so attached to it. And I think that's helping me create some space in my life. So that's my encouragement to you. Now to the Bible study. I've got my trusty B cam here that I'm going to turn around. Let's see if I can get this going. There we are. Okay, so there's my Bible, the NRSV wide margin. That's Exodus. So I got to the end of page 21. So I put a little jot here just to say week 1, because I'm going to kind of keep track of these weeks as I go through it. So I put a little jot there. And then I got back into the Bible. So again, I'm using the Pigma Micron pen, the blue-black one, the 05, for just kind of jotting notes as I think through them. I'm using red, a secondary color, to ask questions. And then I'm going back on day 7, or the last day of the week, to kind of answer some of those questions. So similar thing, I am using the Sharpie. Okay, so a lot of you asked about the pens. So the Pigma Microns are the ones I'm writing with, the 05s. I'll put a link in the description to these. If you're looking for these, you can get these on Amazon. The Sharpie highlighter, so I was told by several people, these guys, or when I talked about these are called, I was calling them the midliner. By Zebra, but they're not called midliners. Several of you corrected me and said they're called mild liners, and I was literally wondering why they were called midliners. I didn't get that. There's an L there, Tim. It's called mild liner. That explains why these are. I described them as like a little bit fainter, a little bit less bright. They're mild. They are mild highlighters. That's exactly what these are. And they're great. I've used them a little bit more. I've played around with them on different papers and stuff like that. They're great if you want a mild highlighter. I said that I liked the pop of the Sharpie and it wasn't bleeding through more than those were. And so I kept using this Sharpie, but a lot of you were like, Dude, you're crazy. Lori Louise, one of my regulars here on YouTube, she said she likes the mildliners because unlike these, they do not burn through her eyes. What did she say? I have it written down somewhere. She said, I actually wrote it down because I thought it was so funny that she had said this. She said, less fluorescent, don't grind into my eyeballs. Several people made similar comments like that. Like, hey, these things don't grind into my eyeballs. So, I get it. I'm still going to use the Sharpie. It's just simple. I love the Pigma microns that I've been using. And that's not for everybody. So a lot of you have sent me other links to other highlighters and colored pencils and things that you're using. So I'm going to put some links in the description of this video to some of the products that have been shared with me. So you can just see what's out there in terms of different things to check out. So back to the Bible. Again, I'm asking questions in red, and then what I shared about last time was on the last day of the week, I'm going back and I'm using some study tools to kind of answer some of the questions I have, to review the notes that I wrote and answer the questions. So really what I was in this section, which probably made it really easy to keep up with everything this week, was that I'm in, Jacob and Joseph, like those narratives of the Bible. There's so much Jacob and Esau and the back and forth and Jacob wrestling with God. Like some of that's so fascinating. You see all these questions I started writing down when Jacob was wrestling with God and getting answers and looking for things. And then I'm like, highlighting, there's the, his name's changed to Israel. Obviously that's the name of the people. Doing sort of things like that. I'm highlighting here. Now the sons of Joseph were 12, focusing on like, that's the 12 tribes of Israel, that sort of thing. So kind of noticing things there. I'm not like going crazy in here. I did notice that when I did the last day of the week this week that I started to have even more things to jot down as I was reviewing. I would then add more comments in the blue ink. But then I'm getting a lot of answers over here. And you can see that in the wide margins, but then when you write on top of it with something else, you don't. It's not really crazy. So pretty simple, pretty straightforward. My basic. Let me just get here to the end so you can see it. Oh, lots of questions in 47 and 48. And then we get to the end here. I love this narrative with Joseph and his brothers and bringing the father to him. And then I just put week 2. I ended right there. So I'm going into Exodus. So I really loved that last day of going back and reviewing everything, thinking about what I'd written down in just my notes, looking at the questions. So I've been using a few different resources. A lot of people ask me about this, like how are you tackling answering your questions? So I've got a few different things. One, this is the Old Testament for everyone. It's a little thin commentary series. John Golden Gay did the Old Testament. N.T. Wright did the New Testament. I have this entire set. It's called For Everyone. It's really accessible. It's just like, here's the text, here's some insights about it, some anecdotes. It's just kind of helping you think through it. It's not really diving in to the deep end. So I've had that with me. I just reviewed, my last video was a review of the ESV Concise Study Bible. It's small. I can keep it here on the couch next to me. I really like this. It's going to give you like basics. So if I see like a phrase like, when Laban had Jacob marry his older daughter Leah, he said, finish the week. And I was like, what is finish the week? Well, it tells me really quickly here, finish the week, it's like the week of wedding festivities, right? Like, got the answer really quick from a Bible like this, just flipping through. Now, I tend to ask a little bit deeper questions. I want to know more about the historical context. I want to know about the literary context of what I'm reading. So when I want to dig a lot deeper, I go to more of an academic commentary. I was gifted the entire set of the Word Biblical Commentary series. I have literally all of them. It's a huge commentary series. I have them in hardcover. And so I've been using this to go through things, and it's going deeper. So for example, I think it's Genesis chapter 38. The Joseph narrative begins, and then they tell this story of Judah and Tamar. And it's kind of there in the middle. And one of the things that I wrote, let me find this for you real quick in the Bible. Show and tell. So if we go to 38, one of the things I wrote was, there you go, why does this peculiar story about Judah and Tamar interrupt the Joseph narrative? Now, when I looked in the Old Testament for everyone, it was just kind of talking about the Judah and Tamar story. It just kind of gave some insights to it. Same thing with the Concise Study Bible. But the Word Biblical Commentary, it did a deep dive into the literary structure of Genesis and why this story was placed where it was and what it kind of told us about the character arcs of Joseph and his brothers and the way that it built tension with the story, things like that. I thought that was really fascinating, and so I got some of those answers down here. I wrote some things down. I'm writing these down as answers too when I go back, but also like as someone who teaches the Bible and stuff like that, I want to be reminded of those things. So if I'm teaching this in the future, I can talk through some of that. Another good one was in chapter 49, towards the end of Genesis. Israel is getting ready to die, and he does this huge blessing of his sons, all of his different sons. And I was like, man, there's so much going on here. The 12 tribes of Israel, all this stuff. Again, pull the commentary out. There's multiple pages, probably 5 to 10 pages, where it's just a deep dive into all of the different intricacies of that blessing of his sons and the different tribes and things like that. I get that not everyone wants that kind of depth in their Bible study and their review, but for me, it's something that I'm really interested in, and I want to dig a little bit deeper. And the point of the year in the Bible is to really like focus on being in the Bible and just study and dive in, to read through, I guess, to really finish the read through and just immerse myself in the text. But I'm also someone who has a lot of questions, and I want to try to answer those questions as best as possible along the way. And so I always encourage people to have a great study Bible, to have some tools like this. I have a video about how I study the Bible and another video about tools that I use for studying the Bible, those sorts of things that I think it really helps me to understand what I'm reading. Because for me, even someone who's been to seminary, even someone who's been in the church my whole life, I read things and I'm like, I wonder what's going on there. And it's not, this is something that was written thousands of years ago, totally different context, totally different culture, totally different, way of writing and everything. And I'm not going to just naturally understand what it's going to say all the time. None of us are. And so to really dig a little bit deeper has been meaningful to me. So I'm going to try to keep up with that. My hope now is moving forward that I don't get behind so that I can't keep doing that slow down day to study and stuff like that and to dig a little bit deeper. I hope that I'm going to be able to take a day every week to do that. But again, I'm going back to work next week. My schedule's going to start filling up. Life's going to happen. It's going to get busier. So I'm a little bit anxious about that. But I feel like I've kind of carved a rhythm into my schedule now, and I really am looking forward to spending time in the Bible. Exodus. I know Exodus is going to be fun. Now, this may be another story in a couple weeks when it's time to read Leviticus, and I'm like, what's going on? But man, I'm really enjoying this. So I would love to hear from you. If you have questions about the pens or the books, I'll put all that again in the description so you can find links to all that stuff and you can check it out. But if you have questions about all that, if you have things that are working for you as you're reading through the Bible right now, I would love to hear about that. If you have suggestions for other highlighters or other books and reference tools, that would be awesome if you would drop that in the comments. And again, I just want you to know, I'm doing this because I want to kind of share the journey of spending a year in the Bible, but I also want to encourage you to do it as well. I am already starting to see things. I guess I did this last week where I'm just like kind of recapping what I've read. This beautiful story in Genesis, right? Where God and his people, and so often what I'm seeing in these people in Genesis is they start to think about themselves. They start to want to find their own identity and their own power and their own strength and make a name for themselves, right? And that seems to be the heart of sin as described in Genesis. And there are consequences for that, right? And yet God is ever loving and patient and gracious with his people, and he continues to love them and care for them. And you can already see this starting to lead towards what we find in Jesus. But I also have to recognize that I can see some of this desire to make a name for myself in my own life. And there's little warning signs here. There's little red flags that pop up for me as I reflect on my own life. But it's also this beautiful beginning, this genesis of the story of God and God's people. And it's absolutely a beautiful, beautiful text. It's a beautiful book. And I'm so excited to be diving into it this year. And I'm thankful for you for being along the ride with me. Y'all are so encouraging and so kind, and I really, really love this community. So check out the video from last week if you missed it. There's also an intro video, and then all the other videos on my channel here, Bible reviews, unboxing videos, stuff like that. Thank you so much for watching. We'll see you next time.